Hey guys, we're outside right now because we are transforming our garden beds. It's a little early, it's January. The soil in it is still frozen, but I am working on kind of a budget-friendly way to create more garden beds this year. I just have two really big ones. Here, I'll flip you around and show you. We have two tall ones. Well, we did have two tall ones. So we have these big beds that we've had for the last 2 years. We've already taken part of this one off, the top part. So what I was going to do is, you see they're double layered and they're pretty high. We're just going to take this top one off all the way around and just place it right over here. So I really don't need for the beds to be this high. I think just the one layer bed will be perfect. So probably going to start with 4 of these for now. We might build some more. I want to build some like trellises to go throughout the center of the beds, or at least like one set of them. We'll see how that goes. I'll bring you guys back for all of that because this might be a couple days worth of a project. Hey guys, welcome back to present day. As you heard, we tried to start this project back in January and it was just impossible. The ground was still really frozen, the soil in the garden beds was still really frozen, so we were not able to get this project done over the last few months until the weather warmed up and the soil thawed out a bit. So this day was the perfect day to start that. It was April 4th and it was our first 70-degree day this spring. It was absolutely gorgeous. So we started this project mid-morning and spent pretty much all day trying to get this project done. You can see my husband is working hard trying to get the beds built. We ended up taking the top layer of boards off of one of the garden beds. I had the 2 large raised beds previously, so we ended up taking the top boards off of one. They were 2x10 boards and moved that to the left side of the garden layer to use as its own garden bed. And I kept the board on the other large one because I already have garlic planted in that bed. So I didn't want to disturb the garlic and the soil there. So I still have that one raised higher than the others, 2 stacked 2x10 boards. The ones that we're building right now are 2x8 boards. So because they're going to be on the back part of the yard where it slopes down quite a bit, we picked boards that were going to be a little bit shorter height-wise just for that reason, to try to make it look level and uniform enough. And it ended up working out really well. So we're putting these 2x8 boards together and cut the ends to make them 4x8 sized beds. And the hard part, the challenge with this, is that it is on a slope. These are going to be sitting on the sloped part of the ground in the back. So we basically have to build the back up and have it shorter in the front. So we'll just have the one 2x8 board in the front, and then you'll see. We'll stack 2 2x8 boards on the back and make it level with the slope of the yard, and then just cut a perfect angle for the sides. And it ends up working really, really well. My husband did such a great job with these. This is not any sort of treated wood. This is just regular wood that we got from the home improvement store. I don't need these beds to last forever. We don't have plans to keep this house for more than a few more years. That could always change. And if it does, that's okay too. I really do like living here, so it wouldn't be a problem. But I think our ultimate goal is to have more land, more space, more of an actual homestead that we can have chickens and some animals and things like that on. And we're just not there yet. So the beds that we originally had, the 2 beds, they have lasted us for 2 full seasons now, going into our 3rd. and they're not in the best condition, but they're holding up pretty well. So if I can get another 3-4 years out of these new beds, that would be more than enough time, I think. So we didn't get any like treated wood or anything like that. I know that treated wood is preferred for building raised garden beds, but we have done just fine without that. So we just got regular boards, and my husband did such a great job putting these together. He's so handy, and I'm so thankful that he was able to build these. I really had plans to expand our garden this year with raised garden beds, just because we had the 2 large ones, but I really wanted more space. Last year we had a large in-ground garden area in the middle of our yard, and maybe I just didn't amend the soil, or we didn't till it up enough, something like that. But also it's just really hard to grow in the soil and the dirt that we have here in our Colorado yard. So I have found much better success growing things in raised garden beds. I feel like I can also just control the pH and the nutrients in the soil so much better, as well as proper watering and drainage and things like that. So because of that, I really wanted to have a few more. I didn't really plan to have 6. Originally, I thought we were just going to have 4. But as I started thinking more about it and started figuring out what we could do with our yard and how to maximize our space, we don't have a dog or any real use for the yard otherwise. And as you can see, we don't have the greatest grass here. It's kind of a deserty yard anyways. We have sporadic areas of grass. But I really just wanted to maximize the space that we have for gardening. So we ended up building the 4 additional beds. So we have 6 total raised beds. And you can see here that he's trying to get the perfect angle with those bottom boards. Just since it's built on a slope, you can see how sloped the yard is. I don't know what the degrees of the slope is, but it's pretty significant. So just trying to raise them up so they look uniform in the yard. Uniform enough. I don't need them to look perfect, but I think that he did a really great job, and they actually do look pretty perfect, especially once the soil and everything is added. They look really, really nice back there. I wanted to get some water in this bee bath here, especially since this is our first warm day. And I know that the bees probably haven't had a ton of water, and just to help pollinate my yard and have them around for this summertime, I like to have bees in my yard. So I feel like having a water source for them that's easily accessible really helps with that. So I just took some water, emptied some water out of our rain barrel that we have underneath our gutter that is really full right now from snow melt and water runoff. So I just put that into the bowl, and I have some rocks and just little tree branches and things like that in the bottom of the bowl. Apparently bees can actually drown easily if they try to get water and the water is kind of deep. So you're supposed to have rocks and other things in a bee garden for them to sit on to be able to drink the water. So I try to keep the water easily accessible for them. I just really like having them in my yard because they're great pollinators for the flowers and veggies and all of the other plants. So while my husband was finishing building the beds, I went to this second bed and just started taking some of the dirt, shoveling some of the dirt and soil out of it to put into one of the other beds. Just because this was a 2-layer bed, it was obviously full of soil. So by taking half of it out, it just eliminates how much soil and compost and stuff that we need to buy to fill these beds in the end. And we do have a compost bin in the corner of our yard, but the scraps haven't really broken down enough quite yet. I know that I could still add those to my garden bed, but just since it's not been super hot yet, and that stuff has kind of gone through a winter season and is still pretty solid, I don't think that it's really going to have time to break down right now before I want to plant stuff in this bed. So I'm not going to use the compost that we have this year. I'll wait until next year to use that once everything is nice and broken down into good soil. But you'll see, we're going to fill our beds in just a little bit. We are going to actually trim the pine tree that's in the corner of the yard just because it's pretty overgrown and needs a good trim anyways. And we're going to cut up those branches and pine needles and things like that and just use those as a layer in the garden beds. I do have cardboard in the bottom of these beds just as like a no-till raised garden bed method. So we put cardboard in the bottom, and then I'm going to put pine limbs and pine needles and things on top before adding soil and compost and all that good stuff. So I'm just adding the pine needles on top of the limbs just to kind of clean up the yard a little bit and use these as a moisture layer before adding soil and compost on top. All of this is organic material and will just break down over time, and it actually doesn't take too long for that to happen. The cardboard especially also will act as a weed barrier and helps prevent rodents and things from coming up from the ground into your garden bed and eating your veggies and things. So all of this stuff will break down. It's all organic. It'll just add good nutrients and things to the soil over time. It's also way more cost effective this way to be able to give the bulk of your garden bed, the majority of it, organic yard material, things that you already have on hand or that you can get easy access to. Is super helpful, super cost effective, just to use scraps from the yard and not have to fill the entire bed with soil, because it already is a lot of soil to fill these beds. I think it was 7 bags per bed for these back raised ones. And that is not even with it being topped off. I could probably put 2 to 3 more bags of soil in each bed right now. So way more cost effective to do it this way and just use the things that we already have in the yard. And each time I add something to the bed, a layer of whatever, I try to go ahead and moisten it and kind of water it all in. That helps save space and just helps things decompose a little faster if it's moist. Especially since we're not getting a lot of rain right now in this season. We typically don't really get rain until the summertime. So I just want to go through and moisten everything and add the next layer to it and keep it all nice and moist as we're building these beds up. We also received these garden bags, these grow bags, from a neighbor across the street that was moving out and getting rid of a lot of their gardening supplies. So this is great. I think we're going to use these for potatoes, to grow potatoes in as just potato bags, but they came with soil in them. So we are removing the soil that is in these bags and putting it into the beds just to kind of get rid of it. We'll get fresh soil for the potatoes. So that added a little bit of soil to the beds that we don't have to purchase, which was great. And then we have these, I think there's 10 grow bags that we'll use for planting other things. So here is just a quick little garden bed building update for you guys. I feel like this gives us so much potential to grow so many more things, and I'm really, really excited about having this raised garden bed space this year. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I probably didn't cover every single thing with the building process and all of that. That is not my expertise for sure, but I can get those questions answered for you if you have any questions about building our beds. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I would love if you guys would give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Stay tuned because there's lots more garden content coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.